The distress call had been screaming into the dark for 3 days. Not in words at first. Words had been stripped away when the translators burned out and the command crews died. What remained was a raw pulse of data and emotion, a looping echo of fear carried on damaged beacons and failing power cores. It drifted through the void like a wounded animal's cry, bouncing between stars that no longer answered. Entire sectors heard it. No one responded. The Kefari Union was already dead by the time the call escaped their system. Their cities still glowed faintly on the night side of their homeworld, automated systems stubbornly maintaining lights for citizens who would never return. Their defense platforms floated in shattered rings, torn apart molecule by weapons that did not simply destroy, but erased. Above it all hung the alien fleets. They were not invaders driven by conquest or ideology. They were something worse. Executors of a quiet cosmic logic that decided which civilizations were allowed to continue existing and which had outlived their usefulness. Their ships were vast, smooth silhouettes that bent light around themselves, as if reality itself wished to look away. The galaxy had learned this lesson the hard way. When those ships arrived, help never came. Neighbors sealed their borders. Allies erased treaties. Empires that once boasted fleets numbering in the tens of thousands suddenly discovered logistical reasons, moral complexities, or inconvenient internal crises. Every civilization told itself the same lie. If we stay quiet, they might pass us by. The Kefari had believed that lie until the first orbital defense array vanished without a trace. By the time their diplomats realized silence was not safety, their suns were already being harvested, siphoned into engines that fed on stellar death. Their fleets died beautifully, bravely, and utterly pointlessly. Plasma blooms lit the void like fireworks for an audience that did not care. So the distress call fled alone. It slipped through jump scars and gravitational eddies, past the borders of species who pretended not to hear it. It degraded with every passing hour, losing resolution, losing coherence, until it was barely more than a repeating signal that translated roughly into one simple truth. We are still here. Please. In a quiet human listening post orbiting a nameless red dwarf, the signal finally reached someone who refused to ignore it. The post was old, understaffed, and officially redundant. Its crew spent most days cataloging cosmic background noise and arguing over maintenance schedules. When the alert chimed, no one expected it to matter. But when the data resolved on their screens, the room went silent. They had seen recordings like this before. Refugee footage, black market transmissions. Whispers passed between intelligence agencies that never made it into public briefings. The shapes of the ships. The way stars dimmed when the fleet arrived. The enemy that never negotiated. Within minutes, the signal was forwarded up the chain. Within hours, it reached Earth. Humanity had argued about many things in its short time among the stars. Borders, resources, ideology, pride. But there were a few truths etched so deeply into its collective memory that no amount of politics could erase them. One of those truths was simple. When someone is being erased, you do not look away. Earth's response did not come with speeches or declarations. There was no dramatic broadcast to the galaxy, no promise of salvation. Orders were issued quietly, efficiently, with the tone of people who already knew the cost and had accepted it. A single warship was reassigned. It was not the newest. It was not the most powerful on paper. It did not represent humanity's full might. But it was available. The ship had been built for wars humans hoped they would never fight again. Its hull was thick with scar tissue from battles against pirates, rogue AIs, and things that did not fit neatly into any classification. Its internal corridors were narrow and reinforced, designed to stay intact even when entire sections were lost. Its engines were overpowered to the point of absurdity, a design choice made by engineers who believed that if you needed to run faster than physics recommended. When the order arrived, the crew did not cheer. They simply got to work. The jump to Kefari space was long and brutal. The ship howled as it forced itself through unstable corridors of folded spacetime, alarms flaring and dying as systems compensated on the fly. Engineers slept in shifts measured in minutes. Crew members recorded messages they pretended were routine updates. As the ship closed the distance, fragments of the distress signal grew clearer. Cities reduced to shadows, civilian ships fleeing only to be overtaken with casual precision, children huddled in shelters beneath skies that burned green. The human crew watched it all in silence. By the time the warship emerged from jump space, the Kefari system was barely recognizable. Where a vibrant star network had once existed, there was now a graveyard. Debris fields glittered like frost around dead planets. The enemy fleet hung in formation above the primary world, methodically dismantling what little remained. The surviving Kefari no longer sent organized signals. Only weak, scattered bursts escaped the surface, each one a quiet admission that they expected nothing. Then the human ship arrived. It did not slip in quietly. It came howling out of the void, engines flaring so brightly they briefly rivaled the system's dimmed star. Spacetime rippled violently around its hull, shockwaves racing outward as if the universe itself had been struck. Alien sensors snapped to attention. This was not how prey arrived. The human warship did not slow. It drove straight toward the heart of the formation, broadcasting on every frequency it could access. Not threats, not demands. Presence. The first enemy vessels turned to intercept, weapons charging with the calm inevitability of extinction. They had ended hundreds of fleets like this. One ship meant nothing. The human vessel answered with motion. Its forward batteries unleashed a storm of kinetic fire, railgun slugs accelerating to relativistic speeds, punching through shields that had never been tested against such unapologetic force. Missiles followed, each one carrying payloads designed to adapt mid-flight, learning from every impact. The void exploded into chaos. Enemy ships maneuvered with elegant precision, beams of coherent energy slicing through space where the human warship had been moments before. But the ship did not fly like anything they had cataloged. It moved erratically, violently, thrusters firing in patterns that made no sense unless you understood the mindset behind them. Humans did not seek perfection. They sought survival. Damage reports poured in, hull breaches sealed, sections vented and rerouted. The ship kept coming. On the surface below, Kefari survivors looked up through cracked domes and burning skies and saw something impossible. A lone ship standing between them and annihilation, its silhouette framed by fire and starlight. Hope is a dangerous thing. It spread anyway. The enemy fleet adjusted tactics, focusing fire, attempting to overwhelm through sheer output. Space around the human warship became a maelstrom of energy, debris, and shattered physics. Each hit tore away armor, scorched internal structures, killed crew. The ship did not retreat. Instead, it did something no one expected. It split its focus. While its main guns continued their relentless barrage, auxiliary systems activated across its hull. Signal amplifiers flared to life, hijacking local space with brute force transmissions. The human ship began broadcasting targeting data, shield harmonics, firing solutions. Not to itself, to anyone who could hear. Across the galaxy, dormant defenses stirred, hidden stations powered up. Fleets that had been waiting for permission they would never receive suddenly found it. Because the message was clear. You are not alone anymore. The enemy realized too late what was happening. Their formation faltered as new threats appeared on long-range sensors, but the human warship had already paid the price. Its engines were failing, fires burned unchecked in multiple decks, life signs flickered and went dark. Still it held position. Still it fought. As reinforcements finally tore into the system, the human ship pushed itself one last time, diving directly into the densest cluster of enemy vessels. Its reactors overloaded deliberately, containment fields straining as energy levels spiked beyond safety margins. The explosion was not large. It was precise. A focused release of everything the ship had left, ripping through the enemy fleet's core and shattering its command structure in a single, incandescent moment. When the light faded, the alien formation was broken. The Kefari lived. In the aftermath, salvage teams found fragments of the human warship scattered across millions of kilometers. No intact hull, no survivors, Only data cores and scorch plates bearing a simple emblem repeated over and over. A reminders. News of the battle spread fast, faster than fear ever had. Worlds that had hidden began to arm, alliances reformed. The enemy, for the first time in its long, terrible history, had been stopped. Not by a fleet. By a decision. By a species that heard a cry in the dark and refused to let it fade unanswered. And from that day on, whenever a distress signal echoed through the void, the galaxy listened differently. Because now they knew. When humans came howling, from the darkness help had arrived.